Laetitia Musheche is an educator and founder of BauHouse Academy, a non-profit organization and educational branch of BauHouse Arts, focused on arts education, youth development, and teacher engagement. With over 20 years of experience in secondary curriculum, she's an art and design subject specialist and curriculum developer, currently contributing to curriculum strengthening and learning and teaching support materials development for the South African Department of Basic Education. Her work spans debate and speech development, creative arts education, and leadership platforms for young people across Africa. Through the Pan-African International Teachers Conference, she seeks to create a space for collaboration, innovation, and dialogue among educators shaping the future of learning on the continent.
Welcome to the Africanist Press New Democracy Project Series. Can you please tell us about yourself, introduce yourself, and tell us a bit about your journey into education?
Thank you for having me. My name is Laetitia Musheche. I'm an educator and the founder of BauHouse Academy, an organization that focuses on education, youth leadership, and teacher engagement. My journey into education has been rooted in the classroom, as well as extramurals, where I got to work with learners from primary school and high school. And I've been working directly with these learners, and over the years, I've realized that the learners have been disconnecting as they became more and more digital, and they became more expressive and socially aware. But our teaching approaches were not moving at that pace. So over the time, my work evolved from teaching content to thinking more deeply about how we teach and whether it truly connects with the learners in front of us. So that tension inspired the birth of Pan-African International Teachers Conference, where teachers need to come together and collaborate and reflect on their teaching methods and create teaching practices that engage very well with the learners in front of them.
What really inspired you to focus on teacher education and social development in Africa?
Well, it is basically that realization that learners are different from how we were taught. What inspired me was the realization that teachers are often expected to change to suit the evolvement of the learners we are facing with today, but with limited resources and tools. And there is no much teacher development platforms that engage them. So with this conference, we are planning on engaging the teachers to make them come, share their problems and craft solutions to the realities they are facing in the classroom. So I became particularly interested in how we can support teachers, not just as implementers of the curriculum, but also as creators of it.
That sounds interesting. So is there any defining moment that shaped how you do your work, the kind of thinking about the classroom and the teaching and your intervention in terms of developing teachers? Was there any defining moment that shaped the passion for the kind of work that you're doing?
Well, there wasn't rather a single moment. There wasn't a single moment per se, but rather it was a pattern I kept noticing. Learners were increasingly engaged in digital, visual, and interactive ways outside the classroom, and that energy was not brought into the classroom. That gap made me realize that something was needed to shift, not with the learners, but with the way that we teach or deliver the lessons to the learners.
Yeah, I know you've alluded to this in this earlier conversation, but I wanted to ask you about what's the current state of teacher education across Africa? If you could talk about your views about the current, state of teacher education across Africa, how teachers are trained, and how is it sufficient in terms of, are they really prepared for the kind of changing technological and environmental landscape when it comes to pedagogy, curriculum development, and all of that? What's your views about this?
Well, there is a strong foundation of committed educators across the continent, but teacher development is often uneven. While initial training exists, ongoing professional developments need also to be put in place, because as it is right now, they are not keeping in pace with the changing of the learners that they are teaching, or they will be teaching if we're talking of those who are in teaching practices. And it's also the people, if we go to the lecturers per se, they never engaged with this Gen Zs and Gen Alphas who we are facing. So you find that their pedagogy is based on the traditional ways of teaching, which does not resonate with the learners that are in the classrooms right now.
So in your own assessment, do you think this is just at the level of the demographic shift with the kind of population that we have, like what you just said, Gen Z? In other words, what are the biggest gaps or challenges facing teacher training, and are they really prepared to face these challenges?
Well, one of the biggest gaps in is the disconnect between theory and practice. Teachers are trained in frameworks and are not always supported in applying them in diverse and in classroom realities. There is also a need for more focus on digital pedagogy and inclusive education and integration and learner-centered approaches. So Pan-African International Teachers Conference was created to cater for this and answer to these challenges.
So I know this is already set in the conference agenda, but can you talk about how African institutions can better support and empower educators?
Well, we need they could invest in continuous teacher development, where they give teachers and training teachers practical engagement with the real situations. So this means creating platforms where teachers can come and collaborate and reflect and experiment and share what really works outside the textbooks context. And it also means recognizing teachers as professionals who can contribute to knowledge rather than to knowledge creation rather than just delivery.
I see. So do you think the current curricula reflect the realities and needs of African learners? Are the ways that teachers are currently approaching pedagogy, curriculum, does it address or respond to the needs of nowadays learners, the student population that you have, like what you said, Gen Z or Gen Alpha? Is the curriculum really in response to their own needs and aspirations for the kind of society that they imagine, or the kind of society that they face today?
Not fully. While there have been efforts towards the transformation of education, there is still a gap there is still a gap that needs to be filled. And this is where decolonization or decolonizing the curriculum comes into context. And it comes not necessarily as a concept, but it needs to come as a practice. That way, the African context will truly be recognized, because here we speak of identity, language, and culture. It has to be encompassed in the curriculum.
Yeah, talking about decolonizing the curriculum and the classroom itself, like you mentioned, beyond just developing content and methods of teaching that responds to everyday needs, what are the specificities, what are the differences when you look at the African landscape? Because we're talking about various, I assume, regional differences between what you have in West Africa with the West African Examinations Council, the East African region, Southern Africa. How do you think that all of these regional examining bodies or approaches to education, learner evaluation, is there a possibility of synchronizing all of these various approaches in terms of teaching and testing methods or methods of evaluation into something uniquely African or continental, or it doesn't really matter, regardless of where one is educated, or these are just the same? How do you account for these regional differences? Can they be harmonized?
Yeah, that's what we actually wish would happen. Especially in the instance that learners will be learning. When you speak of decolonization, we're all colonized, and each country has its own learning language. As each country is having its own learning language, and in their public schools, they are trying so very much to have the African languages be learned there. You'll find that in every country, there still is international schools that are not focusing on these our African languages. So with that, Western education will always be stronger, because as Africans, we always think that learning in an international school is always great and kids get to be sent there. So it will never be seen as, and public schools are not mostly supported to engage with the learners who are also taking this foreign culture into their system. So if if we come together and Pan-African teachers develop something that is uniform, then as a child from South Africa can go and learn in Ghana, same system, same language. And if an African language will be even made compulsory, where like Kiswahili will be taught across Africa like they do in China, Mandarin, and our African children will also get to pass very, very well. It's not that our African kids are dull, but it's because that their exams and their language, their exams mostly are written in the language that is not their mother tongue. So if we get to decolonize education and decolonize the curriculum, and we get to have mother tongue learning in the institutions, in the schools, then that will really assist and elevate an African child. So you asked about training institutions, how they can assist. So training institutions, this is the biggest institution that trains teachers who come into the classrooms. If the college institutions will get to train these different languages and decolonize curriculum from there, and when teachers come to the schools, they now get to learn to teach what they have been taught to teach from the training colleges.
So beyond just addressing the...
I don't know if I answered you there well.
Yeah, definitely. So related to that, as you speak, beyond just the idea of the language of instruction, are there, how can education systems become more inclusive, innovative, and locally relevant? I think that's what we were talking about. Can you expand on that point? How do we make African schools become more inclusive, more innovative, and locally relevant while addressing the needs to train students and prepare them for this whole global environment where they have to, because in the final analysis they have to function in a global world where new technology and new tools of dialogue and invention, innovation
that is very
becoming
true.
the order of the day. So how do we address that at the level of the elementary schools, the secondary school education, moving on? Can you suggest ways that these schools or the educational system in Africa can be more inclusive and innovative, remaining locally relevant, but at the same time preparing students for the global economy itself as well?
If we look at for example, here in South Africa, we have African schools. They do English as first additional language, not as home language, but all their textbooks, all their exams are in Afrikaans. So if geography, not per se English will remain English as first additional language for every child, for every school, then all the textbooks, all the examinations are in the mother tongue of the learners. That will really help. In South Africa, they have already started from, I think, grade 4 to 6. They've already started translating all the maths books and natural science books into isiZulu, Xhosa, and this year those books have already started being used, and learners have drastically improved academically. So with such, China does it, Korea does it, they learn in their own languages, but they still work and they innovate, they are great innovators in the world. So with such an African child being taught in his or her own mother tongue, the same thing that is being taught, the same textbooks, only that the difference is the language of instruction, they will do exceptionally well.
I think this brings us to another important point, which is the role of technology in the classroom. Looking at the uneven development challenges and, there's of course disparity in terms of an inequality when we come to look at various African countries, the level of development, lack of technology, or, limited access to technology. So I was wondering what you think is the role. What role do you see technology playing in the transformation of classrooms in Africa?
Well, technology is, it has a very big potential of transforming the classrooms, but it has to be used intentionally without distracting the teaching and learning itself. So, yes, technology, it has, and as we are speaking of these digitally inclined learners, right? There is no way that we can remove technology because it is what they understand more. So we actually have to use technology to get to them. You find social media, these kids are very, very vast when it comes to social media, and their group is called, they're called Smart Kids, because I remember when I first got my cell phone, I had to read the manual word for word for me to know how to operate it. But these kids, they just unbox and straight away they go to everything, and in turn they actually teach us how to operate that. So technology should not actually replace teaching but enhance it. And by making learning more interactive, because that's where you capture these kids. It becomes more interactive when we have technology, but they should not spend much time on it because it also kills the cognitive development. It has just to be accessible. When it is accessible, every child, even the one in the rural area, gets to know about something that is happening in the world without being there. And it has to be aligned with how students engage outside the classroom. So outside the classroom, that's where we also have extramurals. And we get to have nowadays mechatronics. That's where robotics and coding is found. That's outside the classrooms. So when learners are doing that, not only do they engage in technology, but they are also training social skills, how to work as a team with the use of technology, which never was back then and which cannot be attained without technology.
Yeah, a related question would be, people are now talking about AI, artificial intelligence, as we move into an increasingly digitized environment, a global economy that is inventing and innovating. I guess what I want to ask is a related question would be, what impact do you think artificial intelligence will have in today's classrooms? AI, what impact do you think AI is going to have in African classrooms as we move forward?
Okay. AI will play a significant role in shaping how learners access information and how teachers design learning. For example, in my case, I teach visual art and design. So learners, for example, just last week, my students were designing logos, patterns and logo, right? And they got, because of technology, we did not have to go on a field trip. We just had to go to the internet and see other brands that have a pattern and a logo to inspire them to create their own logo. So after drawing their logo, this is traditional way, drawing and coloring and everything. So for them to now, they don't have the tools of Adobe, Photoshop and stuff like that. This is where AI now comes to play. They had to take a picture of their image and give it to AI, and AI would digitize it, and they get to see their logo, how it will appear in a digital world, in a corporate world. By so doing, they get to be so excited that they can generate something that can also compete with McDonald's, Louis Vuitton, and stuff like that. And from that, also, AI helps them, like in the fashion design. There is no need of now hiring a model, because they wouldn't be having money to pay the model. They now just take their clothing, look for an AI app that has virtual models. Then immediately and instantly, the model puts on what they have designed, what they have drawn, and they get to see how it fits on an actual person. And they get to believe in themselves. So AI just needs to be used very well. And it does not need to replace the teacher, but it needs to enhance also teaching. So the focus should be on using AI as a tool to support learning, not to replace human connection.
Yes. Well, we'll take a short break. Once we come back, we're going to talk about the conference, your work with is it the BauHouse Academy? Is that how the BauHouse Academy? When we come back after the break, we're going to talk about the conference
BauHouse Academy
that you're organizing, and also your work at the BauHouse Academy and BauHouse Arts. So let's take a little break here. welcome back to the second segment of this interesting conversation. I know before we took the break, you were talking about the role of technology and your incorporation of art in the classroom. And I wanted to ask you about, can you tell us, I know you're doing some work in the art field, or you're incorporating art. Can you tell us about the work you're doing with the BauHouse Academy? What's the BauHouse
Yes.
Academy? What is it? What is it
BauHouse
about?
Academy.
What work do you?
Yes. Yes, BauHouse Academy operates as a platform for both learners and teachers, for teacher and learner development in different areas. We focus on creative and academic programs for young people, that is from primary schools to high schools. And there's a cry for varsity students to also be catered for, and we're working on that. And our programs include arts, debate, and youth leadership. And as of last year, we have introduced mechatronics with a focus on robotics and coding. So through this work, we have had an opportunity to engage closely with the learners from these different phases, and importantly, with their teachers. It is through these interactions that we began to see common challenges teachers face in the classrooms, particularly in relation to engaging with today's learners. So Pan-African International Teachers Conference is an extension of this learning. And this is going to be an inaugural conference, and it's the first time BauHouse is actually engaging with teachers at this scale in a committed and continental platform. This conference is designed as a teacher-centered, and it's also led by teachers. I don't know if you saw our manuals. Most of our speakers are teachers, school leaders, that's the principals who are also teachers, and university lecturers. And it is a space where educators come together to engage with real classroom challenges and co-create practical solutions. So it is not a traditional conference that we are going to have. Yes.
So in other words, the conference you're talking about is an activity of the BauHouse Academy.
Yes, it's a project of BauHouse Academy.
So what led to, I mean, what inspired you to come up with this idea of a conference?
Well,
why did you decide to host
I
a
have
conference?
attended some Why did I decide to host a conference? It's because from BauHouse Academy programs, we have international tournaments and international engagements where we get to meet teachers from different nations. And they also get to have similar challenges with the digital learners. So from then, it topped up what I was also experiencing from my colleagues, because the schools today, they still have a phone policy, right? Yet they want to include technology in the classroom. So I just said, how does it work when you say the phones should not come, because these phones are now a mini laptop? You say that it should not come to class, yet these kids work vastly with the laptops, with the phones. And on the phone, they can also be taught how to type essays, because there's also Word there on that phone. So instead of a child to wait until they go to varsity to learn how to type dissertations and assignment, it has to start from that age. So other teachers also will find themselves not getting to understand and not reaching these learners. So at times I'll hear teachers complaining, saying, oh, I have problem, I can't teach this class, I feel like leaving the teaching because it's too much. It's simply because their teaching, the pedagogy that we spoke about, is not resonating to the children. So in my own classroom, I've even told the principal and the parents that their learners are allowed to bring the phones when they are having my lesson on that day. Any other day, they shouldn't. Because these learners also get to be stimulated, especially with my subject, when they listen to music. So it relaxes them because my subject is somehow therapeutic. And when they do that, it helps them also to get to understand the other subjects. That's why you see in the very first thing a child is given in his early stage is a crayon. Why are they given crayons and coloring books? That also helps with cognitive development. Then when they get to higher grades, you find that they are stopped from using these crayons because they think that it's not aligning with what they should learn. But you find that right now they are pushing STEM education. It used to be STEM. They dropped the A. But now we find it's STEM education, that's science, technology, engineering, art, and mathematics. Without art, all these other subjects can't be. In mathematics, you need to know how to draw. In engineering, you need to know how to draw. You need to know how to add color. You need to know how to do all these things. So when I saw this, I said, no, even teachers and those who train teachers, they also need to be educated about the need of STEM, a full STEM. And extramurals themselves also need to be seen and be appreciated, because if you look at Barack Obama, I'm sure he was doing public speaking for him to end up being a great public speaker. So if learners engage in debate like we do have, public speaking, storytelling, spelling bee, because these learners, again, they don't like reading. When it comes to reading, they really don't hear what they read, because their reading competitions have been phased out. Teachers are now just being rushed to cover the curriculum. They don't focus on these basic skills. So it is from these competitions and interacting with these other teachers from other schools that I got to see, there is a vast gap that needs to be filled. If teachers will come together from different nations, facing the same problem, teaching the same type of children, then I think we need to come up with a universal solution that helps those who are seated with the children in front of them, and also draft context or teaching and learning materials that resonate with the learners that they are teaching, and not stick to textbooks which seem to be outdated now, which were written by former teachers, and these former teachers never get to meet the children that we are facing with today. So we are not removing the curriculum. We follow the curriculum. We follow what needs to be taught. But it is how it is to be taught to these kids that they get to understand it. So it is from that interaction that brought up the birth of the conference.
Yeah. So I see that this is the first conference. It is the inaugural conference, and it's happening on June 12th to the 17th in South Africa, right?
Yes, it is the very first conference.
Can you tell us more about the
Come again?
content, the agenda of the conference? Who will be in attendance? How many people will be attending? The issues that you'll be discussing? I know you've alluded to the general focus of the conference. Can you say more about the agenda?
We are expecting all teachers of all educational phases, that's from elementary school to high school, and lecturers from teaching institutions, varsities, Department of Education. We are looking at curriculum policy developers, NGOs who work with in education or with education as stakeholders. We are also looking at subject advisors with the Ministry of Education, the Education Department, because those are the ones who take the curriculum and they train teachers on how to implement it, so that they also get to know what the teachers face, so that when they go back to their curriculum drafting, they get to take what the teachers would have put on the table into consideration. So we'll be focusing on understanding Generation Z and Gen Alpha learners, teaching with technology and 4 industrial revolution tools, classroom management in a digital era, entrepreneurship and skills for the future, project-based and experimental and experiential learning, building life skills through extramurals, and decolonizing curriculum and pedagogy. And we'll also be looking at integrated and interdisciplinary teaching approaches and teacher development and curriculum aligned practices. And looking at the dates of our conference, it falls within the long weekend of the South African Youth Day, which is quite a historical moment. If you know of the youth uprising of the 1976, they were fighting for, in refusal, they protesting to be taught in Afrikaans, and they were fighting for them to be also taught in their mother tongue. So we will also have an excursion where we'll take the delegation to the area where it all happened and link that to our conference and look at mother tongue education as well as decolonizing the curriculum, because what these children fought for, it cannot just be in vain. It really needs to be put into practice across the continent. And as an inaugural conference, we are expecting about 150 to 250 participants. If it goes more, we'll be very excited. Otherwise, as we are just starting, we are hoping for great turn-up, and we have already received very, very positive response from teachers all over, internationally and continentally. They are already engaging, and I think this issue of understanding these generational kids is really a concern, and they really want to know how to deal with these kind of learners.
So what are the main goals that you want to achieve? What is the main focus of the conference beyond just gathering teachers and talking about challenges in the classroom? What do you hope to achieve out of this gathering, this first gathering?
Okay, our goal is to move beyond inspiration to implementation. We want teachers to live with practical strategies on how to deal with the challenges that they face. And we look also to have a collaborative network of continental teachers and a renewed sense of urgency in shaping learning. And long term, we are working towards building a sustainable Pan-African Teachers Conference that continues beyond the conference itself. And if possible, to have a rotational conference being hosted in different African countries, so that teachers and participants in general get to also experience the different cultures in the African continent, so that when they do the collaboration in coming up with the writing or resource materials, they get to understand how Ghana, when Ghanaians are speaking about this, a teacher in Zimbabwe will also be understanding and get to be involved in the creation of this continental resource material.
One thing we haven't talked about, I know we've talked a lot about addressing the needs of learners. Is there anything on the agenda of the conference that speaks to teacher welfare issues, condition of service for teachers, salaries, teaching materials? Because we see that investment in education in many African countries is not that great. So will the conference also focus on teacher welfare issues, how to empower teachers not just with the technology and the tools to teach, but their own welfare issues for teachers, salaries, and the like?
Well, we also cry out for teachers to be seen as professionals, like I said, not just as implementers of the curriculum, but also as creators of the learning environment and learning strategies and stuff. So we want teachers to be also able to create their own teaching and learning materials. You know, in varsity, lecturers produce their writings, their teaching and learning resources, and they get remunerations from that. They sell those books. Why can't teachers also do that? Because the teachers can write in language or in a level that is understood by the children that are right in front of them. And you know, learners at that stage, they so very much listen and are so obedient to their teachers. They believe in their teachers so much. If a book is written and it has their teacher's voice, their teacher's name, a child takes that book and does homework at school, at home, and finishes classwork at home, the child will be seeing the teacher in the book and will do the work very, very well. So we also have invited publishers to also interact with teachers so that their books also get to be published. So if we get to have a team like maths teachers who shall be there, they draft lesson plan. It might be universal because geometry is geometry everywhere. So they draft a universal book on maths, how to teach, how to what, from what they would have gathered from the conference. That book can be, it can be printed. And teachers, these teachers will get a remuneration also from that. I feel teachers, they shouldn't be stopped, you know. You hear the teachers, they shouldn't do this. If you're a teacher, you're not supposed to even sell sweets. You're not even supposed to sell freezes. Where do they get the money if the government is not looking at their welfare? So we'll encourage teachers to be writers, to be creators of teaching and learning resources. So by so doing, they can also draft their own lesson plans, which they can sell to other teachers. You see, in America, they have websites like it's Teachers for Teachers, where teachers sell lesson plans. They sell commentary books on novels. And teachers, African teachers, we go there and we buy, but we can create our own. What we are buying is what that teacher has written according to his or her understanding of the book and the way he or she is teaching. but I understand the novel differently, and I have my own way of teaching my learners to understand. So I should be able to write my own book also, and the learners have to pay for that book because I would have put so much time in it.
Yes.
So I think that's where we
is there any
plead to those who
is
be
there
there.
any final message that you have? Is there any final message that you have regarding the conference
Well,
and all of the issues that we've discussed for policymakers, teachers on the African continent, and international partners who will want to learn more about the work that you're doing?
okay. What I can just say to them is that please do come to the conference, and any company, any NGO that is willing to support this innovation, they are welcome to make any donations to make those other teachers who are finding it difficult to come and attend, so that they also get to come and attend. And I also plead with the schools to be supportive of this initiative, for it actually helps their students. If their teachers are trained and developed, it increases the pass rate in their schools. So yeah, that would be it.
So if somebody wants to learn more about the work that you're doing in the conference, is there a website or a place they could go to learn about the conference, how to get in touch with your organization and the work that you're doing?
Okay, at the moment we don't have a website. We just have social media handles. They can find BauHouse Arts, because BauHouse Arts is the mother of BauHouse Academy. So we are on TikTok, we are on Facebook, we are also on WhatsApp channel, we are on Instagram under BauHouse Arts. So that's where we post all our work and everything also regarding this conference is also found there. Same on X, we are also there.
Okay, thank you very much for sharing your knowledge with us, and we wish you luck with the conference and all the work that you're doing.
You have been listening to the Africanist Press podcast service's New Democracy Project, sponsored by Northwestern University's Program of African Studies. Tune in for special commentary and interviews every Sunday for free on Spotify, WhatsApp, Telegram, YouTube, Radio Public, iHeartRadio, Apple Music, Amazon Music, and other podcast platforms. You can help spread our message by sharing our podcasts with your friends and family. And see you next week.